broken skulls with lethal puncture wounds, bound skeletons with arrowheads lodged in their spines, mass graves filled with the scalped remains of entire communities. The archaeological record tells a grim story, one soaked in blood and shadow. For millions of years, death has stalked humanity, sometimes through the fangs of predators, but more often at the hands of other humans. Our story doesn't begin with us as killers. It begins with us as prey. Long before Homo sapiens rose to the top of the food chain, our ancestors lived in fear. One of the most striking pieces of evidence comes from South Africa, the skull cap of a juvenile Paranthropus robustus, known as specimen SK54. This fossil, about 1.5 million years old, bears two small, round puncture marks that match the lower canines of an ancient leopard. Paleoanthropologist Dr. C.K. Brain demonstrated in the 1970s that these marks perfectly align with the bite of a big cat. A leopard likely captured the child and dragged it into a tree to eat, just as they do today. Another tragic discovery in South Africa involves the famous Taung child, a 3-year-old Australopithecus africanus who lived about 2.3 million years ago. The skull shows puncture marks and fractures, suggesting the child was killed by a large bird of prey, similar to how modern eagles hunt small primates. These early threats from land and sky pushed our ancestors to evolve sharper tools, stronger social bonds, and greater awareness, key traits for survival. As humans evolved, the greatest threat shifted from animals to each other. By around 10,000 years ago, the most dangerous creature a human could meet was another human. At Naturuk in Kenya, archaeologists unearthed the remains of 27 individuals, men, women, and children, showing clear signs of violent death. Of the 12 relatively complete skeletons, 10 had traumatic injuries. Skulls were crushed, limbs broken, and arrow points embedded in bones. One man had an obsidian blade still lodged in his skull. Several individuals, including a pregnant woman, had their hands bound. These people were hunter-gatherers. They had no cities, farmland, or wealth, yet still engaged in organized violence. Professor Robert Foley noted that this suggests a deep-rooted capacity for aggression, evolving alongside cooperation. The attackers used both projectile and close-range weapons, indicating planning and coordination. The violence at Naturuk may have stemmed from competition over resources like fresh water, or it may have occurred simply because two rival groups encountered one another. But it was not an isolated case. At Jebel Sahaba in Sudan, dating back 13,400 years, archaeologists uncovered a cemetery with 61 skeletons. Many had embedded stone projectiles, fractured skulls, and broken bones. Initially thought to be the result of a single massacre, recent analysis by Isabelle Crevecoeur revealed more than 100 previously undocumented lesions. Many individuals had both healed and unhealed injuries, suggesting they lived under constant threat and faced repeated attacks over time. Anthropologist Christopher Knussel noted that this evidence challenges the idea that warfare is a recent development. The people of Jebel Sahaba lived during a time of dramatic climate change at the end of the Ice Age, which likely led to increased competition and violence. Further evidence of large-scale violence comes from North America at the Crow Creek site in South Dakota. Around 1325 CE, archaeologists discovered the remains of 486 people, men, women, and children, killed in a single catastrophic attack. Many skulls bore scalping marks. There were signs of dismemberment, severed limbs, and beheaded bodies. The village had been fortified, showing that the inhabitants already lived with the constant threat of assault. In other places, killing took a more calculated and organized form. At the Halberstadt site in Germany, dating back 7,000 years, a mass grave was discovered containing 9 people, 8 young men, and 1 woman. All had been struck in the back of the skull, likely while kneeling or bound. The bodies were discarded haphazardly in a pit. Isotope analysis revealed they were outsiders, possibly captives, suggesting ritual execution. This site is the earliest known example of systematic execution in human history, indicating that by this time, humans had already developed the social structure to support such practices. Not all prehistoric deaths were the result of violence. In Shanidar Cave, Iraq, archaeologists found the remains of a Neanderthal man who lived around 45,000 years ago. Known as Shanidar I, he had a crushed eye socket, a withered right arm amputated above the elbow, and signs of arthritis. Despite these injuries, he lived for years, suggesting his community cared for him. In Kabwe, Zambia, a 400,000-year-old skull of Homo heidelbergensis shows signs of severe dental disease, with large cavities and abscesses that likely caused death. This was unusual for prehistoric humans, whose diets were lower in sugar. Another case from East Africa, around 1.7 million years ago, involved a woman known as KNMER 1808. She died from vitamin A poisoning, probably after consuming the liver of a predator. Her skeleton showed abnormal bone growth on her limbs, similar to modern cases of vitamin A toxicity. These personal stories remind us that prehistoric life was shaped not only by violence, but also by disease, injury, and hardship. Each skeleton is more than evidence. It is a life once lived. By studying these ancient remains, we uncover not just how people died, but how they lived. Their struggles, triumphs, and tragedies reveal a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. Across vast spans of time, we see ourselves in their survival, their suffering, and their resilience. This is the story of us, written not in words, but in bone.